So here's the deal, right? Scaling a business isn't just about selling more stuff or selling more widgets. It's about building the right structure underneath that growth. It's about having the right infrastructure, the right systems, the right people, the right processes. Everything would start to wobble without any of those bits and pieces in place. So hiring bottlenecks, compliance risks, disengaged staff, does any of that sound familiar? Because if you have any of those things, that's the wobble that I'm talking about. That's where strategic HR comes into its own. It's where it makes all the difference in your business. One of the things I always say is the people paradigm. You cannot scale and grow a business without increasing the people in your business. You need to increase the hours you have in your capacity to do stuff and get stuff done. But with people come people problems, and that's the people paradigm. You need people to be able to grow and scale. It's not just about selling the stuff. It's so much more than that. So if this is your first time with me, let's get this microphone set up in the right place. This is your first time with me. My name is Mike. The company is Cavil, and we help and specialize in supporting health and social care businesses to help them to grow, to help them to scale, and to help them to provide the best possible patient-led care that they can through the people in their business. And that's why we need to make sure we get the HR set up completely right and on track to help them in their businesses. Now, in this video in particular, I want to show you how you can work with an HR consultant that's going to help make you scale and scale smarter without the cost of a full-time hire, without that huge overhead and burden that you're going to have on your shoulders. So if we just get started really quickly, I want to think of what an HR consultant is. What is it that it actually does? So an HR consultant is a flexible resource. It's an on-demand HR expert partner in your business is going to be there and help you when you need it most. Instead of hiring an HR advisor or an HR manager into your business with those fixed overhead costs, by the way, in terms of that, those costs for an HR manager or advisor in your business, depending on where you are in terms of geography here in the UK, could cost you somewhere between £30,000 to £70,000 a year. And that's without potentially your on costs on top of that. On costs are your amount you have to pay for pension, national insurance. Boy, we know all about that, right? So having an HR consultant gives you the benefits and expertise in your business without the fixed overhead costs. So that's one of the great things that comes with that. And if you work with a consultant, like, for example, ourselves, I'm not trying to push ourselves out there, but if you work with a consultant like ourselves, you get even more because you've got access to tools, you've got access to templates, and dare I say it, you've got individuals that have worked across over many different industries. So, for example, one of the great things I love about being in business and doing what we do on a regular basis is I get exposed to so many different industries and so many different things that I would not have normally been exposed to if I would have stayed in one role, stayed in one industry. So health and social care, obviously a big one for me, but been involved in manufacturing, sports, which has been a great enlightening one, charities, marketing, advertising, so many different backgrounds, art as well, another great one. So we've been exposed to so many different industries. It helps us to cross-pollinate all of those things and great things and bad things that we experience through all of those and bring them into play into one place in your business, which you would not necessarily get if you hired an in-house HR advisor or HR manager, which is a great part of working with a consultant. So in terms of that, I want to make sure that we understand, really, really, really clearly what are these consultants going to be doing? What are the levels of consultant you can get? So I've already mentioned about HR advisors, HR managers, you've got HR business partners, directors, in terms of key components to roles if you hired them directly into your business. Well, what is that when you put that out to an HR consultant? Because it seems like an overall umbrella. Well, it kind of is. And you can get different levels of work that will support you depending on where you are in your business. And to be quite frank with you, what needs you have right now. There's certain things at higher levels you may not need. And there's certain things at lower levels that might take more priority for you right now, in which case you want to make sure that what you're getting or what you're purchasing in through that process is what you need and what you're looking for. So for this, we have really 6 levels is what I would categorize this as. Now, interestingly enough for us, we don't have our packages split up into 6 different levels. So I'm saying there's 6 levels for HR consultant, but our packages aren't split into 6. It's because they cross-pollinate quite a lot of these, and you'll realise that as well. And yes, we do have lower tier options and much higher tier options. A higher tier option, by the way, just out of not trying to sound some rams down anyone's throat, but it actually has on-site support potentially to it as well, which, you know, depending on type of business, may be something you would welcome in that sense. But those are the kind of spectrums and levels. So in terms of level 1, we have HR compliance. So this is the really basic level. So that's about making sure that you're legal compliant. It's about making sure you've got things like contracts, handbook with policies and procedures, privacy policy, up-to-date kind of processes in place at that very basement, basic level. So that's your kind of element you'd get from a compliance process. And then on top of that, level 2 is around administrative. So handling HR paperwork. Who wants to do that, right? One of the biggest bugbears for most people is around the paperwork, records, potentially, depending on the HR consultant you're going to, could also involve things like payroll preparations, keeping things together, creating audits, or making you ready for an audit if you are having internal audits as well. So it can help keep things clean, keep records clean. May even partner. So we partner with a provider around HR information. So that's a cloud-based version for your staff to have access to. So help to keep those things up to date as well. Then you get level 3, which is more into your nitty-gritty type HR things, which is more around advisory. So giving expert HR advice when you need it, on the day that you need it, whether that's challenges that have just come up, whether it's things that are coming up in the future. It could be also involving things like investigations, so disciplinaries, grievances, could be helping with difficult conversations, redundancies, and also, you may not know about this one, 2P. So if you're taking on a new business and you're moving those staff and transferring them into your current business, 2P is likely to be something that would apply to you. So, with those things, those advisors will be more of an expert level that will help you to kind of facilitate that and to get that ball moving and help with those different things. And also to help guide you through those processes. So, whilst you might have an investigation for a disciplinary, that's just the very beginning, embryonic stage of that glorious process. You might also then have hearings that you have to do, appeal hearings you have to prepare for. So getting ready and giving advice on all of those different bits and pieces. The 4th level is management. So that's looking more around supporting in terms of recruitment, identifying recruitment needs, getting a great onboarding process. Onboarding processes, by the way, as a caveat here, so my little asterisk to this process, that's an understated element. In fact, it's an extension to the recruitment process to make sure you get that going. Performance processes, sickness absence kind of management processes, and recording of that as well. And you can already start to see how some of these points start to link together. But it helps to build all of those functional elements. So it's your people first kind of team process. Then you've got your level 5, which is your director level, which is more now getting into the strategic elements. So aligning your HR with your business goals. What I like to call this is where you get your goals for your business and align what your people are actually doing to those goals. So you're directly getting the outputs and the productivity of the people in your business, aligning and working towards the goals that you've set in the business. Makes sense, right? Really basic. So many businesses do not do that. It's a big missing component. So that's quite a key element. And also looking at workforce planning, reporting, culture, leadership, leadership support and training and infrastructure around those areas too will be quite integral. So it's very much more higher level at that end. And then you get to the 6th level, which is more, specialist, real niche, which is looking at the deep support in key areas like retention, restructures, more in depth around 2P and planning around that and training design. So for us, our processes and services that we offer, they cover the span of all 6 of these elements. So obviously the higher tier where I spoke about with having a person on site, definitely more specialist work and support there. And our lower tier is definitely more compliance and admin. So those are the kind of things that you work with. And I would advise when you're looking at these processes, you want to really pick what is your urgent need right now and how long are you likely to need that. And by the way, you should always be looking to level up, because if you're not leveling up, then you're not really scaling your business. So one of the other things I always say is as you grow, you're growing your problems, right? You want to increase your problems, you want different problems, because as you start to grow and as you start to increase your business, you will naturally get other more unique challenges that are going to come up. That's just a sign of growth. So you want that. And that will go the same here. If you're always just going to need the compliance and admin, then how far forward is your business actually going? You do want to start looking at, well, if we're looking to grow, we're going to need to get more people. With more people come more people problems, right? So you're probably going to need more advisory and management support thereafter. And then once you started to do that and you start to look a bit bigger and bigger picture, you're going to want to start thinking more strategically. And that's where you're going to need your more director level and specialist level to come in and support around that too. And that's why we've broken our functions up into 3 different elements. So those are things that really you're going to want to look at. One other tidbit here as a word of cautionary warning and advice. There isn't, and there shouldn't be, a one-size-fits-all model. So that's one thing to take into account. But I would be careful, and a lot of HR consultants might slap me across the wrist for saying this because they'll vastly disagree, but a retainer-type process, depending on what that retainer looks like, can actually not be working in your favour. So, for example, if you have a consultant that's charging you £300 a month, but then as soon as you go above whatever that £300 a month covers in terms of hourly charges, they'll start to charge you additional, which means as soon as you start to get a problem, all of a sudden 1 month you're going to get a massive monumental bill. I point blank don't agree with that. I think it's great for businesses to know what you're getting, what's included within that, and what you're going to have to pay each month, so I know what my costs are going to be. And that's why I would always say that that's the best way to go. The amount of times I've come into contact with other clients that have gone down that road with businesses, and that really turns them off from getting help and support, which is really unfortunate. But that's just down to the fact they realised, well, do you know what? I got nothing out of them because I didn't use them for 6 months. Then we had a disciplinary. They did an investigation, and my bill went from £300 a month to, I don't know, £2,000 that particular month for the investigation they did. So just be cautious of that. For us, it's a fixed fee. There's no fluff. There's no pressure, just good advice and support to help you to get to that next stage in your business. So what our whole process is driven towards is to help you to scale and grow your business, not just to be there, when shit goes wrong, which is what people think HR sometimes is the police force in a business. We actually want to help you to utilize, get value added from the people you're employing. So that's really integral too. So there are also 4 reasons to scale faster with a consultant that I want to talk through. By the way, I'm just going to pause here for a minute and just say that just below this video, if you follow the link in the description or the link on the page that you're on, you will find the actual article that we've written around this for more depth and more detail. So please have a whiz through that, and I implore you to read through that and get a bit more information. But coming back to the 4 reasons to scale faster with an HR consultant, I just want to talk through these because someone like me, not necessarily always me, but someone like me can actually help you to speed up your growth. Done right, that's exactly what it should be. So when I talk about people in a business, I always emphasize there's 2 things here: cost and investment. If a person is actually providing you with solid growth, they're giving you something back, they're hitting the goals, you've got high levels of productivity, high levels of performance and outputs from that person, they're an investment. It doesn't mean they're necessarily bringing in income. Not everyone's going to be linked to revenue streams, but the work they're doing is helping and supporting with client retention, the work you're doing with clients, etc., etc. They're an investment. The moment you start getting people that have lots of discipline, sickness absence, other issues, performance concerns, and they start to swallow up most of your time, they're a cost. They're a cost because, well, they're not doing what they need to be doing for what you're paying them to do, but they're also a cost because they're then sponging so much of your time, which is not free, to then focus on all of these elements and concerns that you may have. That other element to the people paradigm. You want to manage and effectively manage that cost element, and you want to enhance and you want to attract more of the investment. So those are some of the real big things that we want to talk through. But just in terms of that, we can have a look at 4 key areas and start going into those in a bit more depth as well, which is the first one is cost industry experience. cross-industry experience. Sorry, I've got costs stuck on my mind. So cross-industry experience. As I said before, having a consultant is worth its weight in gold because the likelihood is they haven't just been based within your sector. They actually come from multiple sectors. So, for example, like I said with myself, there's lots of different sectors that I've worked within that gives me huge experience and lots of different problems that have happened in lots of different industries and cultures to bring into the fray to help and support you. And that's why I think that's worth its weight in gold. So you don't waste time having to figure something out for the first time. They may have already experienced it. They may have already seen it and seen what impact that has in other businesses, in other industries, and be able to bring that experience to the fore to help and benefit you, which is great. The second one is around flexible cost effect. Basically, is another point we just raised, which is, there's no salary. You're not paying a pension. You're not paying national insurance for that person. You're not having to train them. You're not having to include them in a benefit system. There's none of those things. You pay for what you need. So coming back to those 6 points that we focused on, you pay for the service that you need at the point in time that you need it at. So, okay, you might have to sign up to a 12, 3-year contract on some of those things, but you're paying for the specific element you need. You're not having to employ somebody. And therefore, that gives you a lot more flexibility, but also regularity in terms of knowing what you're paying for, especially if you go based on the other thing that I mentioned around obviously having that retention process as well. You can also hire consultants for one-off projects. So don't think that it has to be a 12-month fixed retained kind of process. It could be a one-off. If you are experiencing difficulties right now and you need help and support and redundancy, it could well be that may be the case. If you're having concerns at the moment in time with a particular employee and you just want that help right now and you're a really small business, then that's all you need. And you can take that forward too, in which case, it's not a long-standing fixed cost for you and your business. The next one is looking at faster solutions. So again, linking kind of into number one, which is the likelihood is if you are taking on board a consultant to help and support you in your business, they probably may have experienced and seen some of the problems you're already facing, and also the ones at the next levels too. And they know how to solve them, and they know how to work around them, and they know how to implement those solutions within your business, which means you're not having to scratch around endlessly trying to find solutions to problems that you plain don't know the answers to right now. When you're doing that, it's going to take you much longer to be able to progress past that particular pain point. And the fourth one is unbiased advice. So, for example, like myself, I'm not employed by you. I'm not linked to you in any way, shape, or form through those internal processes. So I'm not masked or impacted or inflicted by any internal politics that may or may not be happening in your business. So in the long term, that means you're just getting straight up guidance and advice without any of the other bullshit, which is always great for you and your business. It means that the advice you're getting, is relevant and the right support for your business, whether you like to hear it, whether you don't like to hear it, or whether the others around you feel that way. That you're getting the no bullshit response that's going to help you. So therefore, it gives you something and informative to take away to help you to make informed decisions in your business. So as I just look to wrap this up really quickly, if you are scaling your business, and if you're not, I don't know what you're trying to do, because even charities that we support want to scale. Everybody wants to be able to grow, and that is a good thing to look to do. So if you are scaling your business and you're not sure about what HR setup can help you, that you should look to keep, or what you should be looking for, to be quite frank with you, or you're just looking for advice because everybody kind of looks the same, and they're not, but everybody looks the same, then let me know. Let's have a confidential chat. Let's talk through that. There's no pressure. There's no jargon. Just help. I just want to support. Whether you choose us or whether you look to work with somebody else, that's absolutely fine. If we can give you help and support to get you past that next process, then just let us know. There'll be a link at the bottom of the article, and you can just let us know there. Book up a time best suits you, and that'll be fantastic. And I look to see you soon. All the best.